Hello, possums. Dr. Lena, coming to you from Australia, your in-house sociologist. Well, it's finally happened. It has finally happened. The day has dawned when the Yeti has turned on his own base. And in his own words, through his own fetid little lips, he's condemned them as stupid and weaklings. Couldn't have said it better myself. However, that must be confronting for them. So he is under a lot of pressure. And we have to have a look at how that unfolds. I'll do that momentarily. But the whole behind the scenes of the Epstein stuff has created a climate whereby this presidency, I think, can't actually survive. Finally, you got to love that. Now, the other person who's being dragged down in all this, and not a minute too soon, is Pam Bondi, Pam from Baywatch. And the thing with her is, do you remember back in the day where she was supposed to prosecute his university or something, and she paid him 25,000, or he paid her, I think, 25,000, less than the cost of a new motor car, to buy her lock, stock and barrel. YouTube, entertainment purposes only. So she's a cheap date, Pam. Sorry, love. Cheap date. But what's happening generally with all this is all his crazy, disconnected worlds and statements are coming home to roost, and they're crashing in his crutch like a 24-stone lap dancer. And we have to enjoy the moment, because there's plenty more shit down the track, I am sure. But at this point in time, just relish the moment. So, back to Pam Bondi. A letter has emerged that's apparently in the public domain, so we can talk about it. I saw it on David Packman, I think, in February, where she wrote to Kash Patel, who's spectacularly unqualified for most jobs, I think, let alone head of the FBI. Look, you really wouldn't want him in charge of a pajama factory, but anyway, here he is, head of the FBI. She writes him a letter going, I've just got these 200 pages, Cash, and I thought there were thousands of documents, and I've heard this from another FBI insider, so I want the whole file on my desk. So there's a written trail that puts Kash Patel in the headlights. And did he send them or did he not? And what was in those binders that they were holding up for the camera? And these are the things, thousands of pages that lead to nothing at all. Now, I'm sure if you actually asked the cleaners on the island, they'd be able to tell you a lot more than the FBI could. Like, not good enough. Simply not good enough. So, our best case scenario is this undermines Pam Bondi with the base, because she's instrumental, obviously, as Attorney General. Can I just take this moment to say, all being well, and the Dems get back in some capacity, in the next year or two, that they really think about who they appoint as Attorney General. Because there's plenty of blame to go around for why this situation exists, but a fair amount of it rests with Merrick Garland taking 4 years to not do anything. And really, Biden should have kicked him out after 2 years, saying, sorry, it's obvious you don't have the mongrel for the job. Do it, So, But let's have a look at Pam Bondi. Let's go in here. The Republicans might save her, but we'll see. She herself is thinking, I might not want to continue in this role. I wouldn't be surprised if she's receiving death threats or something from the mad base. This is her thinking about getting out. That's kind of weird. At the moment, the Yeti is protecting her, but that's not always the safest place to be. This is karmic. It's karmic for Pam Bondi. It's karmic for the Yeti, and it's karmic for the US. Okay. So she came in with her strap on, you could say. Women who are in these high-powered jobs have to be more hardcore than the men, etc. So she came in all guns blazing, so to speak. But now the GOP, this is my fake families card for the GOP. The GOP are staying with her for now because they want her to push so much of their agenda, which is actually illegal. You remember the law. There used to be a constitution in the United States, and people really looked to it as an overarching legal document, but you'd be wrong. Okay. So they're struggling with this, but I think they'll hang in with her and Trump will hang in with her for now. But this is a moving car. That could be 10 days or 3 weeks. Okay, as I've said, I think Bongino is going to be the one to throw himself on his sword. So now we've got all the stuff with Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, the question becomes who else was on the island? We'd all love to see the list, except it'd be such a big list. Can you imagine the mythical list? But what's been bugging me, I have to say, intrepid viewers, yes, there's endless talk of underage girls, but where are the boys? Is every powerful man in the world who brushed up against Epstein straight? I don't think so. Do you? Haven't even touched on the word. I've been waiting for years for the revelation. Anyway, now, Michael Flynn, you remember Michael Flynn, the biggest traitor still in a uniform, how he can. Why haven't the armed services recalled him and then got rid of him? They can do that. Why should he retire with a general's pension? It's a scandal. He's been the biggest QAnon pusher from the beginning, but even he has begged Trump not to talk about this as the hoax. Well, pissing into the wind there, love. Okay, so just a moment here. There's so much. There's so much to deal with. My notes are endless. I wanted to talk about the vote of the Republicans to not reveal the files. And the vote was 211 to 210. It only took one Republican with a spine and history could be different. No, no, no. Let me be the coward. I'll be the coward. No. So, how is this going to play, not just with the MAGA base, but with other Republicans? This vote, I think, was really significant in this moment in time where everyone is totally fixated on this issue. It's threatening the presidency. They had an opportunity to hide behind procedure and just say, just release the files and then fudge about it. No, they voted against it. So will that my question is, will that peel some more Republicans off? Let's have How are other Republicans going to see this complete abrogation of responsibility displayed by the Republicans? Okay, let's have a look. They only care about the money. They do it in secret. Oh, some of them aren't happy. Some of them are not happy. They towed the line, but they weren't happy about it. I mean, part of me says, who cares? But everything at the moment is critically important. So, Knight of Pentacles, they're just water carriers for big money. They don't actually have a position in their heads. They do not see themselves as elected representatives. They do not see themselves as representatives of the people. None of that. That all has gone. Behind closed doors, they're speaking the truth to each other, right? And those people who have access behind the scenes, the James Carvilles, the different ones, the well-known reporters and stuff who still have their ear to the ground, have said this for the last however many years. Behind the scenes, the Republicans go, isn't the Yeti terrible? But this is their hypocrisy in this moment. But some of them are actually now quite angry. They're angry that they were forced into that position because, let me digress, because people remember this salacious type stuff much more than they remember bills on economic measures. People don't read them usually. They just grumble about them after the event, but they remember this stuff. So some of them are coming out, this is behind the scenes, this is all covert, that's how they operate, and going, I'm not going to do it again. Don't rely on me again for this vote or that vote. Ooh, could be interesting and global in the sense that there's more of these than we think, right? Before I get onto this, another digression. Typical of this is Josh Hawley. He made wonderful, impassioned speeches about why Medicare should not be cut for people in need, then went and voted for it. And now he's on his knees in front of Kristi Noem begging for a bit of aid. I think there comes a point where they actually feel they just can't do it anymore. And this has several meanings to me, this world card turning up. Just put a finger across the naked body. I mean, really, what would these people, YouTube, do with the statue of David? I mean, it's so petty. Anyway, the world. It's saying that this energy is more widely spread amongst the GOP than we think. So I think it's MTG um, who's come out and refusing to support the crypto bill. Right? So she's refusing to support the crypto bill. Why, I hear you ask? Well, that's because, don't. She thinks it's the mark of the beast. Yes, and it's signaling the end of days or whatever it's called. I mean, this is a paid Congress representative. Can you believe it? And she's prattling on in this way. So that's why she can't vote for this. It's bizarre because the crypto bill is a very big deal that we haven't got time to go into today. But this is what I mean. They're starting to splinter off. But the world is also, oops, the world is also the world. We are all watching from all over the world. We have been saying for all this time there was an insurrection at Congress in January with people laying into serving police officers, smearing their excrement on the walls, threatening to lynch the vice president, and nothing was done. You have a president who may or may not be a legitimate president. I'm certainly in the camp of what? You mean he won what? Yeah, and he keeps revealing this in little bites. And Elon, because he's off his face and off his tree 23 hours a day, also there's enough evidence. I hope the Dems are gathering these sound bites where they say, oh, he's really good at computers, so that's why we scored another swing state, And Elon saying he couldn't have got it if it wasn't for me. They're saying it. They're saying it. Right? So the world is watching that and going, really? That's the best you can do. Now, I think it's really, really important to understand this is leading to a big change in the world and how the US is viewed. So you guys are smart, you know how it works. USAID and many other projects are soft power. That's how you get influence in other countries by doing the right thing. But also, your farmers get paid for those contracts. So it's still money circulating in the US for giving that grain. So it doesn't make sense to cut aid, apart from millions dying and HIV taking off again in all sorts of countries. It doesn't make economic sense or political sense. You don't even have to do the moral thing because we know this government's incapable of it. Just go with that, like. So, in terms of the world, let's jump in now. He, meaning the Yeti, is attacking Jerome Powell. Oh, before I get to Jerome, sorry I'm so disjointed today. I must remember Jerome. There are so many layers to what is happening economically, right? So, as we know, Jerome Powell is supposed to be there till May 2026. And because the Yeti doesn't understand economics, he certainly doesn't understand the role of the reserve. He doesn't understand bipartisan, so therefore he doesn't understand anything about that role. And he's the head of a crony capitalist society. Make it happen. Put interest rates down 3 points. We'll make billions. We'll make billions. Like that. Jerome's standing firm for now. But let's ask, will the Yeti buy him? I don't know. I'd like to say it's not legal, but that doesn't mean anything anymore. What's going to happen with Jerome Powell? What's going to happen with Jerome Powell? What's going to happen here? Okay, Jerome. Hmm. Oh, I think he could try and get rid of him, like really, actually, maybe even do it. Oh, let's look at that. So, judgment. This is big picture, and it's my card also for the collective. This is not judgment like St. Peter at the pearly gates. This is a collective card because it's at the end of the major arcana here. And this card is about how we will be judged, not as Marjorie Taylor Greene sees it, but in the sense of if this man and this government isn't reined in, the impacts around the world are colossal and will impact for decades. So the judgment card is in play. That makes me twitchy, I have to say. Wheel of Fortune, it's almost as if it's inevitable in some way because the Yeti has no boundaries. No boundaries. This will lead to a loss, not only for the United States, but I stress the world. And look at this, talk about stabbing someone in the back. Mm? This is this is the problem. If he goes ahead and takes down Jerome Powell, that will trigger a collapse of the US bond market because what it says is the US is now outside a system of measures and safeguards and protocols for how to conduct the biggest economy in the world. He will put the US outside that. Therefore, we, the rest of the world, can't trust it. It will lead to a collapse of the US dollar and a sell-off of bonds. The sell-off of bonds will then accelerate the collapse of the US dollar. It's an inevitable path if you dismantle the role of the Federal Reserve and you put in charge, someone from a massage parlor in Tucson or something in charge of the Federal Reserve. It's not going to work at this critical stage in history. It is not going to work. Oh my God. But while we're here, lost in all this madness is the dismantling of the Federal Education Department. I have never heard of another country that has done it. If these two things happen together, so already dismantling the Federal Education Department and dismantling the Reserve, that sends the US catapulting into a fourth world status. I mean, it's unbelievable. So my next question, because I don't want to be all doom and gloom, I think those of us who are vaguely in the alternative world have been saying for many years, the system needs to actually be thrown up in the air to be reinvented and rebuilt on the other side in a way that is more fair to 360 million people and the rest of the world, instead of just this micro, tiny elite controlling all the wealth. This has to be exposed. And that could be another unintended consequence of all the Epstein stuff, because MAGA have been frothing at the mouth for the last however many years, going, it's this corrupt elite. Well, yeah, there is a corrupt elite. They're absolutely right. But they're not just Dems, who aren't exactly pedophiles and cannibals if you actually scratch the surface. They're the ones trying to stand between you and something worse happening. So they need to understand this. And I'm not just defending Dems. I'm sure there were a good handful of Dem men on the island. It's not about that. It's about understanding that, yes, there are these elites and they don't give a flying fuck if you live or die. And I think that's an important message. And so let's hope MAGA gets it on some other level. Let's hope. Okay, so what I want to look at now, on a more positive note, how all this turmoil, all this angst, all this struggle is going to help lead to a reinvention of the United States. While I'm shuffling, Obama came out during the week and said the Dems need to toughen up big time. Toughen up. He wants to see them fight too. So the first thing they need to do is replace Ken Martin, the nameless, faceless, voiceless head of the Democratic National Committee. Useless. Let's have a look how this can turn around. Now, I can't give you a time frame, so please, it's not something that's going to be resolved at the end of summer or something like that. We have to start thinking in the bigger picture, longer term. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. The reinvention. The obstacle, look at that. Oh, wow. Wow, 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 wow. Okay. Now, you have a situation as we speak where the Yeti is a clear and present danger to the US and the world, right? So this is on the other side of that. Not looking well, is he? Not looking well. Okay, compromises will have to be made and they're long overdue, right? The obstacle is Nepo babies, inherited wealth, the worship of the dollar, the undue reverence to the uber rich. It has to change culturally from the inside out, from the ground up. This has to change, right? Here we have the victory card. I was very pleased to see that here. And I think this is the second tier Dems leading the charge. Like this can be the Jasmine Crockett's and the AOCs and these powerful younger women who are prepared to take on this structure. Compassion. Compassion is not a weakness. Compassion is needed in order for any society to truly be a civilized society. Don't undervalue it. And so this is, I think, the great reckoning for the US. Now, the Queen of Cups is famous for her cup. In my deck here, the One World Tarot, um, I would have preferred it to have a bigger lid on the cup so you could see it more easily. America has gotten this situation because of not dealing with its emotional legacies, particularly racism. It's like it's still 1860 and it's failed to deal with issues of racism, misogyny, and the worshipping of wealth for wealth's sake. This is coming. This is coming, and not a minute too soon. I love this. I love this. Mm. Okay, this is really, really, really important. Oh, so that's food for thought. But I think it's also important, guys, to understand we're used to quick gratification, and that's not what's happening in general. And yet it is very quick. When they look back in history, this 10 years, 15 years, or whatever will seem like a blink of an eye. It's very hard to live through it because it seems like every day is its own agony. But on the other side, so I want you to think about that. Supporting this for a brand new victory, a victory over um, blind consumerism, materialism, and Australians are, excuse me, just as bad in a general sense. We've bought into this consumerism. Everyone's personal debt is through the roof. It's similar. However, it's vastly different at the same time. So have a think about that and let me know what you think in the comments. And I'm going to put up a link to my favorite economist, Justin Wolfers. And in this interview, he's doing interviews every day. He's talking about the tariffs because the tariffs haven't even started yet. But it is so crazy. And he does it with humor and a very down-to-earth touch. So don't think, oh, I'm really not in the mood to look at a podcast on tariffs. It's not like that, right? So I hope you enjoy it. All right, guys, lots of love. See you soon. Ciao.